Multiverse is a complete conversion mod of FTL Faster Than Light. It's a total overhaul that adds more everything. More weapons, more crew, more events, more endings, way more ships. Maybe too many ships. Maybe you've seen a cool streamer start up the game. Can't think of anyone in particular, but I bet they're out there. Starting Multiverse can be overwhelming, especially if you're not intimately familiar with FTL beforehand. With that in mind, let me give you a quick primer on what you need to know, what you need to do, and what you might not want to do, but should try anyway. This is going to primarily cover Multiverse, so we won't be covering fundamentals of unmodded FTL. FTL has an astronomical skill ceiling, but you don't need to reach the peak to win or enjoy the game. If you want a beginner's primer to unmodded FTL, I can't recommend Mike Hopley's Beginner's Guide to FTL enough. I'll echo his first advice and recommend you give Multiverse a few runs before you take anything in this video too seriously. Having some context for the advice I'd give helps more than you might think. I'm Extra Shoddy. I've played this mod, a fair amount. Welcome to FTL Multiverse. To install Multiverse, you'll need a copy of FTL already on your computer. This can be either from Steam, Good Old Games, the Humble Store, your friend's sketchy USB drive, and so on and so forth. Go to Subset Games' website, find the thread for Multiverse, and download the necessary files. I'll link the current thread in the description. You can install the add-on manually, but I recommend using the built-in installer. It can save you a lot of time and frustration. There's a number of resources on Multiverse's official Discord, which is linked in the description as well. If you have trouble installing, look there. Base FTL is especially punishing if RNG doesn't go in your favor or if you're still learning the game. Multiverse irons this out by making the early game a bit more forgiving. Upon starting a run, you'll be offered a free weapon, crewmate, or supplies, which evens out the difficulty for ships that might be missing one of these. The first sector you'll enter is the Multiverse drop point, which has some key locations for starting up your run. The supply beacons on the map give reliable early fuel, missiles, and drone parts. Sylvan, your friendly neighborhood arms dealer, will give you a free item and some scrap just for visiting him. If you have some spare supplies, he'll take them off your hands and pay you for the trouble as well. These are good ways to kickstart your early upgrades, of which I highly recommend getting a second layer of shields, or 4 levels of shields. 2 layers goes a long way in preventing early damage, and scrap you don't spend on repairs is scrap that makes you stronger. Multiverse tends to be generous with opportunities to gain weapons, drones, or crew, so don't worry too much about buying them early on. The Rebel Elite at the exit beacon is guaranteed to drop an item after its defeat, so make sure you reach the exit before the encroaching fleet overtakes it. Every time you enter a new sector, you'll typically be greeted with the sector's guard. Depending on the hostility of the sector, you'll either get the chance to request or demand help, or be given the choice to fight them. These guards are typically stronger than most ships in their sector, so it's usually a good idea to hold off on fighting them until you're confident in your ship. You can gain some extra rewards from some of them if you defeat them while leaving them intact, but this is fairly difficult, and not something I recommend unless you are very confident in your boarding or crew killing setup. Certain factions will keep track of your reputation, which measures whether you've been naughty or nice to them in a given run. Unfortunately, what constitutes naughty or nice is arbitrary. Harmony really didn't appreciate you stopping their war crimes. In general, attacking and threatening sector guards will lower your reputation, and doing certain quests for them will improve your reputation. If your reputation is too low, some bases may refuse to support you or attack you upon entering the associated sector. If you remember anything, remember this. Don't pick up the flowers. Occasionally, you'll be offered coordinates to new sectors via events. These coordinates will allow you to reroute your ship from its current destination to a hidden sector. These sectors typically have difficult encounters, but also have unique crew and unlocks, ones that typically cannot be found elsewhere. Quite a few cruiser unlocks are tied to these sectors, so take these opportunities when you're offered them. The new playable races and variants of Multiverse can change how you run your ship, and they're worth understanding as you recruit them. Orchids supply oxygen to your ship and buff any crewmates within the same room. Free Mantis have an active ability to fight enemy crew, but my personal favorite have to be the Separatist NG. These NG have slightly better offense, slightly worse repair speed, but most importantly, the ability to go into nanite mode, giving them immunity to mind control and suffocation, letting them take significantly less damage in crew combat, but removing their ability to repair, fight, and heal. These last characteristics are blessings in disguise, as it makes fighting mind-controlled crew much safer until it wears off. Back at the Rebel Elite in Sector 1, you may have noticed that their crew seemed a little too beefy. That's because they were elites. Many playable races now have elite variants with improved stats or extra abilities. As your run progresses, you'll start seeing them on stronger enemy ships, and if you're savvy, you may also have the opportunity to recruit them. If you see crew you don't recognize, don't hesitate to pause and mouse over them. You can see a short description of them and their unique traits. Multiverse gives you far more direct control over crew movement, and you can move them to any individual tile within a room. In addition, mind-controlled crew and boarding drones can be toggled to manual control, letting you use them like any other crew. The freedom to position your crew gives you a lot of control over how damage is distributed during hand-to-hand combat, and it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with positioning them against enemy crew, especially depending on room size. Certain drones and weapons have toggles, which give them alternate modes to operate in the middle of a fight. You can swap them with a button in the top left, alongside drone and mind control automation. If you're wondering about the absence of a particular drone or weapon from base FTL, chances are they've been merged with another. Most combat-oriented crew drones have a boarding or defense mode, which place them on the enemy ship or yours, respectively. Boarding drones are stronger in general in Multiverse, as defeating a ship without destroying it will refund any boarding drones within it. If you're not confident in your ship's ability to destroy ships regularly, or want to supplement your boarding crew, boarding drones can be surprisingly potent, especially with the Drone Booster Augment, which can be applied internally. Augments in base FTL were hit or miss. You took them if they were offered, but they typically weren't worth paying for. With some exceptions, of course. Multiverse takes a fairly different approach to them, and while new augments are still available from shops and events, most of the base game's augments are now available through the internal upgrade menu. These cover a wide range of functionality, from extinguishing fires, resisting ion damage, to halving the consumption of your missile launchers. The pre-igniter is conspicuously missing, but you can't have everything in life, though it's not as though it's completely absent. There are a few new augments present here, which give you a few more options when
free whenever you need them for life. Just pay shipping and processing, but you gotta call now.
Alright, fine, we'll talk about it. You can buy any of the arms from the original FTL as internal upgrades, but only one at a time. It may be incredibly tempting to take the scrap arm as your first upgrade, but you don't need it. You don't need it. There's a greater emphasis on crew personalization in Multiverse, and the onboard lab gives you extra control over this. Any ship can buy this with some extra resources, but ships with a medbay, level 2 or higher, can receive it for free. With it, you can add or change certain characteristics of your crew. These can include buffs to combat, repair, health, or resistance to debuffs or hazards. Any of your crew of that race, including variants or elites, all share this change, unless the upgrade is specific to that given variant. Upgrades like suffocation immunity to NG and increased power from Zoltan are great, but some races have truly ridiculous buffs. Non-corporealism completely removes a phantom's ability to fight, and that's a good thing. Why, you may ask? Because now there's nothing left to distract them from sabotaging. No life support system will go unmangled. Too long has man suffered the shackles of the Krebs cycle. When we move past the ozone layer, we move past the need for our lungs. Multiverse features a few ships without any oxygen systems present, and this gives us a dilemma. You need oxygen for most crew to survive on your ship, and while medbays can serve as a guest room, you still need crew to run it. But most isn't all. There are a handful of anaerobic species who can serve as crew, and when you run a ship that doesn't need oxygen, you start noticing a few perks. Boarding crew can't survive long enough to sabotage your systems, fires can put themselves out, and breaches lose half of their sting. They're still very annoying, however. The icing on the cake is letting go of oxygen frees up space for a new system. Let's talk about some of the crew you can use on oxygen-free ships. Lanius were the original species to forego the need for air, and work similarly in Multiverse. Ghosts, also called phantoms, are naturally resistant to hazards and can sabotage systems incredibly quickly. Orchid caretakers are immune to suffocation and can extend that immunity to the rest of your crew in the same room. NG and Crystal crew can obtain suffocation immunity via the onboard lab as well, but there's one race in particular that makes anaerobic ships worthwhile. Meet the Morphs. They're the creations of a mad scientist you may or may not meet, designed to replicate your crew, and even your drones. We care about the latter. Technopaths can replicate nearly any crew drone in your inventory. Meet Asshole. He's a robot pirate captain. Can you guess what else he is? A surgeon. These morphs can turn into robot pirate captains, and I have a lot of morphs.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Yo! Yar! Arr! Fidelity! Press this booty, 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 press this booty.
I can assure you, I'm very normal. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to Kix, AZR, and the rest of the Multiverse Discord. It's been a wonderful place to learn about the game. I'm planning on making a few more of these videos, so if you're interested in more Multiverse content or have something you think I should talk about, let me know in the comments below. Stay classy.